She said, "I think we should just be friends. My ex needs me more." I shoved the car key I was going to give her into my pocket and smiled. "Hope you're happy." A couple months later, late at night, she showed up at my front door with a bunch of people behind her. "I am Jack." And this is the night I realized that sometimes closure is not a dramatic speech or a second chance. It is simply not opening the door the same way twice. When I met Emma, I was in a phase of quiet grinding. Long hours, freelance design jobs, saving every spare dollar, trying to get my art noticed by anyone outside my friend group. Emma stepped into that life like she was turning the brightness up on everything. She loved the way I talked about small details, about light on windows, about people in motion. I loved how she made all of it feel less lonely. I was never the flashy guy. No big car, no luxury trips, no highlight reel on social media. Just a hatchback that sometimes sounded like it had asthma, in a small studio that smelled like coffee and acrylic. Emma said that was what she liked about me, that I was stable, calm, focused. I believed her, so I built plans on that belief. At some point, her ex, Ryan, drifted back into the picture. He was the complete opposite of me. Fast life, loud stories, expensive watches, big promises. The kind of person who knew how to make an entrance and how to talk like the future was already his. Emma started mentioning him more often. At first it was casual. Old friend, old history, just checking in. Then it was coffee. Then it was catch-ups that ran late. I watched it happen, like watching storm clouds forming in slow motion, telling yourself it might not hit you. I had been planning to give Emma a car key, not as some cinematic proposal, just a simple, steady gesture, a symbol that she was part of my space, part of my life for real, not just a guest who stayed too long on weekends. I carried that key in my pocket for a week, waiting for the right quiet moment. The moment never came. Instead, one evening, Emma sat across from me with that tone people get when they have already finished the decision in their head and are just walking their mouth through the script. She told me we should just be friends, that Ryan needed her more, that he had changed, that he had opportunities and connections and a lifestyle that made more sense for where she wanted to go. I felt my hand close around the key in my pocket. For a second, I saw two timelines. In one, I begged, bargained, competed with a man I did not respect for a woman who no longer respected what we had. In the other, I accepted what she had already chosen. I slipped the key deeper into my pocket and chose the second timeline. I did not chase her. I did not stalk her socials or text mutual friends for updates. The pain was there, obviously. The mix of rejection and humiliation. The way my brain replayed every moment and tried to find the exact line where I stopped being enough. But at some point, in one of those long nights at the studio, it clicked that I was grieving more for the story I had written in my head than for the person who walked away. I had been in love with what Emma represented. Stability, partnership, being seen. Not with the version of her who could trade loyalty for a shinier promise. So I poured everything back into myself. I took every extra project that aligned with my art. I slept on couches during short trips to capture city lights and quiet streets for a series that had lived in my sketchbook for years. I stopped trying to be the safe background guy and let myself fully commit to the work. I turned all of that stillness, that internal noise, into a collection. I called it stillness because it was about the space after impact, when the storm has passed and you are standing there in the echo, figuring out who you are now. A friend helped me lock down a small gallery space. I expected a handful of people to show up, nod politely, and leave. Instead, the room filled. Posts spread. People resonated with it in ways I had not dared to hope. By the end of the night, red dots covered the walls. Almost everything in stillness sold. For the first time, my account balance looked like something that matched the hours I had been quietly bleeding into my craft. In the background, I still heard things about Emma and Ryan. It was impossible not to. Ryan was always talking. That was his brand. The business he bragged about turned out to be more smoke than structure. Money moved in ways that started to look like scams. Promises of investments, delayed payments, excuses. Emma had followed the highlight reel and walked straight into a blooper compilation. I did not gloat when I heard. There was a time I would have taken a grenade for her. Watching from a distance while she stood next to one voluntarily was just sad. Around this time I met Leah. Leah came into my life sideways. through a collaboration. She managed events and content for a local arts nonprofit, needed branding help, and someone recommended me. Working with her felt easy in a way I had not experienced before. There was no stage persona, no need to perform. We talked about work, about burnout, about weird childhood stories. She showed up to my shows not as a fan trying to attach herself to a rising story, but as a person who genuinely believed in the work and respected the process. What made Leah different was that neither of us was a project for the other. She did not need to save me. I did not need to fix her. We moved at a careful, honest pace. Two people with their own lives choosing to overlap without swallowing each other whole. Months went by. One night it was late, the kind of late when most of the building was asleep and the air felt hollow. I was half awake on my couch, laptop open, reviewing some concept sketches. There was a knock at my door. Not a polite one, a persistent one. When I opened it, Emma was there. Behind her stood a small cluster of people. Friends, cousins, whatever they were. They hovered like a support squad that had run out of script. Emma looked like a different person than the girl who had left. The shine was gone. Stress lines where the glow used to be. It did not take long to understand that Ryan's empire had collapsed in predictable ways, and that she suddenly remembered the existence of the man she once considered too quiet, too simple, too stable. There was a version of this story where I let nostalgia and old feelings drag me back into her storm, where I felt obligated to help because she was crying, because I used to love her, because I am not a monster. But I was not the same person she had discarded. I had built something solid out of my own pain. I had found someone who matched me without using me as a safety net. I had learned one brutal but freeing truth. When someone trades you for an illusion, you are not obligated to be their reality once that illusion collapses. Standing in that doorway, I saw Emma clearly for the first time. Not as the almost forever I used to plan around. As a person who abandoned her own values when it suited her, then wanted them back the moment life punished her for it. I kept my response calm. No shouting, no revenge speech, no dramatic confession. I reminded her, in plain, steady words, that she had chosen a path built on lies and ego, and that the cost of that choice was not only losing me, but losing the version of herself that once understood what loyalty meant. I let her know that I was no longer available as a backup plan or a cleanup crew. I did not invite her in. She tried to frame it as fate, as lessons, as a second chance moment that movies love so much. But this was not a movie. It was my life. I had already paid in full for my growth with nights of doubt, ugly self-reflection, and the long, heavy silence after she walked away. I was not about to pay again to give her an easier landing. Eventually, she and her group left. The hallway went quiet. I closed the door and, for the first time in a long time, I felt pure, uncomplicated peace. No hate, no fantasy of getting even, no secret hope that she would come back better. Just clarity. Some people will abandon themselves chasing illusions. Some people will abandon you on the way. You cannot follow them into that. You cannot make them choose reality. All you can do is choose your own. I chose mine. It looks like work I believe in, people who show up the way they speak, a relationship with Leah that is built on presence instead of performance, and a front door that does not open to chaos just because chaos suddenly remembers my address. If there is a lesson in this story for anyone listening, it is this. Your peace is worth more than their panic. Your growth is worth more than their regret. And you never owe yourself as a rebound prize to someone who only sees your value once their illusion fails.